Hey, welcome back everybody. Today I'm going to be doing a comparison of the most popular ICP tests currently on the market. Those being the tests from Triton, ATI, and CoralView, aka ICPanalysis.com. Now, if you're not familiar with an ICP test, basically what they do is heat the water sample up until the point the water evaporates and you're just left with the raw elements, and then they measure that. The reason why you might do one of these tests is because they're more accurate than your home test kits, which sadly, home test kits aren't particularly accurate. It's basically the best that we have to get by with. I personally use HANA checkers, which provide a good baseline, but ICP tests are always going to be more accurate. Originally, when I came up with the idea to do this video, I was just planning on comparing the user interfaces. I thought that the ICP tests from these three companies would be relatively the same. And actually, I was quite surprised to find that they weren't. I'm going to jump into this pretty quickly because this is going to be a long video. But this was a pretty big revelation for myself. I had only done ICP tests through Triton before. So I learned a lot along the way. Hopefully you guys too, and decide which ICP test is the best for your situation. I'm not going to say one's better than the other, but with that being said,
let's get ready to rumble!
ICP tests are a little spendy, but they can really save you if you're in a situation where your corals are dying unexplainably. You might have a contaminant, whatever it might be. But they test over 40 elements. Cheapest being the one from CoralView at $29.99, then ATI at $44.95, and then Triton at $49. These are regular retail prices at this moment in time. When I buy mine, I usually wait till they go on sale at bulk resupply, then I'll get the Triton 3-pack. With shipping, it raises the price, obviously. The method I used was just your standard shipping at the U.S. Postal Service. ATI has prepaid shipping, which, realistically, they just built into the cost of the product. But I used the same shipping method on all three of these just to kind of really do a fair comparison and make sure that the timeline is the same for all. So here's the bottom line. You have the CoralView test at $37.99, ATI at $44.95, and then Triton at $57 when you factor in the cost of shipping. Now let's look at what actually comes with each kit. Of the three, the CoralView test is the most simple and straightforward. Basically, it's just one vial. You sign into their website, register an account, get an ID number that you're going to put on that label, and then slap that on the vial, ship it off, and you're done. The box itself is designed to be shipped, but that's pretty much the same with all of them. They all come in kind of self-contained packaging that's used to send through the mail. The Triton test comes with a little bit more. In this case, you have 2 vials, and it comes with pre-generated barcodes used to identify your samples. In my opinion, the ATI seems a little more advanced just because you get 3 vials and they test your RO water at the same time, just in case your contaminants might be coming from the water source itself. I shipped all 3 directly from the post office on Tuesday, January 29th. They were, again, all sent through the same means of shipping, so not one was sent at a faster means than others. I wanted a very fair comparison between the 3. I expected to get the results for the CoralView test first because they're based out of Colorado. However, I didn't expect to get it in 3 days. I was pretty shocked how quick the turnaround was. Triton, as you may know, is based out of Germany. The U.S. hub received it on Friday, January 1st, and then it was actually delivered in Germany by Tuesday, February 5th. Cool thing with Triton is you actually get an email notification each time it reaches one of the hubs, and then you get your final notification for results. For me, it took 9 days. Got everything back on February 7th with the complete results. Now, the experience with the ATI kit was a bit different. At one point, I'd almost given up on getting the results. I thought it got lost in the mail. I actually called the post office, waited on hold for almost an hour to talk to somebody, just to find out that their system was down for tracking, and had to call back a second day and gave up after holding for 45 minutes. Lo and behold, on February 18th, I finally got an email that the results were in. It would have been nice, just because it's bouncing around from the United States to Germany, if ATI would have done something similar to Triton, and where they give you notifications when it reaches a different hub, just so you know that it's still making its way through the mail system. Because the tracking number that was associated with the package didn't provide any information on the post office website, just saying to check back later. So not really helpful information. Due to the nature of this type of test, it's very likely that the speed in which you get the results is going to be a major factor in which test you decide to buy. If you're dealing with a major meltdown, personally, I would go with the Coral View test, just so you can get the information back right away, make the necessary adjustments, and try to save your tank from a complete meltdown. However, if it's not an urgent situation, I'd still consider the Triton and the ATI tests, especially because they have more samples of water included in those tests, especially with the ATI and being able to test the RO water. That's a pretty cool feature. Now we're going to take a look at their actual websites. Now that you have your results, are they easy to read? Can you navigate the website? Etc. So here's the Coral View website, aka ICPanalysis.com. Now, speaking as someone who's done web design professionally for over a decade, I gotta say, hands down, my favorite website of the three is ICPanalysis.com. It's just a nice, clean website. You can pick the type of water sample you're basing things against. In this case, the standard default is Fiji. I noticed with the other ones, it doesn't really seem to populate any information. But all you have to do is just click on the elements, and then it'll load the results, and you get just a nice, easy graph to look at. The one thing that can be a little confusing is, okay, you get your information, and kind of intuitively, you're kind of wondering, like, hey, like, do I get any more instructions? What do I do next? Apparently, these red blocks look a little more scarier than others, so I'm assuming those are bad. That's where you kind of have to figure it out yourself a little bit. But in this case, it got warning flags on arsenic, iodine, molybdenum, and strontium. One thing that's cool is it's very quick and easy to download your results. You can see the download button there, where you basically just click that button and it'll download a PDF document. Really easy to review. If you want to share your results, that option is basically just printing out a JPEG. Nothing too fancy, but at least you have quick and easy files if you want to share it with someone else. All the other buttons on the page, not really a whole lot they do there. If you want to add another aquarium, if you want to add a faucet, if you feel like paying $30 to send in a RO sample, that's basically how you track it there. But overall, I like the website. It would be cool if they'd provide a little more instruction as to what actions should be taken. That's one thing where the ATI and the Triton websites provide a little more instruction. But if you really just need quick results, and if you know what you're doing and you know how to take action on this stuff, ICPanalysis.com is a pretty solid option with how quick the turnaround time is for the results. Now let's take a look at the ATI website. Definitely a lot more going on here. This system was designed as a way to basically have someone come back, manage their aquarium over a long period of time, really have more control, and even just upload pictures of your tank and videos and whatnot. So kind of more of like an actual media hub on top of testing information. You'll see that there's line items for my tank, and then there's also the RODI sample. I've never tested my RODI water before to this extent, so I was interested to get into that right away and just see what the results were. This next screen kind of gives you an idea what I'm talking about with media and whatnot. You'll see that there's a place to upload images, charts, whatnot. So it's almost kind of like a little information hub. Now, after playing with the site for a little while, I found that the charts that they have right here, really they don't provide any information unless you've done multiple tests. So that's why they're looking blank right now. Getting the actual test results for the RODI water, it's pretty straightforward. You get nice green check marks for things that are okay, and then scary red arrows for things that I'm guessing need improvement. So fairly easy to read. In this case, I mean, basically just click the view button and you get pretty much the same information, but just displayed in a new window. One thing that caught my eye with the ATI test kit right away was the fact that you actually get a score, so you kind of know how you're doing overall. That's not something that was on the CoralView website, so yeah, it's kind of might be a little arbitrary, but knowing that I'm at 90% for my tank makes me feel pretty good that I'm on the right track. You can see it gives you rating for major elements, minor elements, pollutants, and base elements, and then tracks your salinity and DKH as well. I was a little low this day at 8.24. Now, kind of going down the list, same deal. You get the scary red arrows for things that need improvement, and then you have the green check marks for things that are okay. For those that don't know, the milligrams per liter, that's the same thing as parts per million. And then the UG/L, that's the parts per billion. It's just, the way they do it over in Europe. So with that being said, you get over to the recommendations tab, and it gives you information as far as like what to dose and how much. I gotta say that's a nice feature if you're looking to solve some problems with your tank. You're not quite sure what to do next. Really helpful guidelines to get the trace elements back in line in your tank. In my case, I know I've been kind of lacking on dosing some of those trace elements, so it's good to know kind of a rough guideline of what should be done to get those back in line. Now I like to click around on buttons and see if everything works. In this case, I clicked the shop link and it took me to a 404 page. So overall, that's the only glitchy thing I found on the website, but everything else seemed to work just fine. Heading over to Triton, it's relatively the same as the ATI site. It's just a little easier to figure out right off the bat what you're supposed to do, just because you have to click on the evaluations button. You're not bombarded with a whole like media library option or anything like that. So it's pretty straightforward. The Triton test is laid out pretty similar to the ATI test. You have 4 tabs at the top to navigate through. This is the data tab with just your general results for each element. Green being good and red being bad again, like we've seen with the other 2 tests. If you hover over each of the elements, you get the element name if you're not quite sure what the periodic table reference is. When you get to the bottom of the page, you have your PDF download option, pretty straightforward. Moving on to the help tab, this is where things really start to get interesting with Triton. Kind of similar to ATI, they'll give you some background on the symptoms and possible causes and some action to take on your tank based off the results. When you get into the dosing section, this is where the Triton supplements really kind of come into play. It is nice if you're not 100% sure on what you should do that, Triton and ATI, they both provide similar resources to say, buy this element and here's how much you dose, how often. And with Triton, they kind of take it from a basic to advanced. On the visual tab, I'm kind of confused as to what this actually even does because I haven't been able to get it to work. Maybe I need more tests to be completed before it actually functions. I've done 2 tests with Triton so far, and I can't get any data to load on this tab. So it would be nice if Triton and ATI provide a little more instruction on how to use their website because it's not as straightforward and user-friendly as the CoralView test. Okay, probably the moment that a lot of you have been waiting for. Let's look at the actual results. Instead of showing all 40-something elements, ain't no one got time for that. So what I'm doing is just highlighting the ones that got flagged by one of the 3 tests and doing a comparison. So first up is calcium. This got flagged on the ATI test. You can see 437.9. Interesting that each system has their own targets and they're all different. I put in the average and the standard deviation for all these results just as a means of doing some further data analysis. I'm kind of torn as to which results to really put the most stock into. But I figure an average would be probably the best way to go about it. Moving next to iodine, this got flagged by both ATI and CoralView. I recently purchased some Lugals that I'm going to use to dose iodine and potassium at the same time. I'm trying to basically get this dialed in. I also bought the Red Sea test kit for iodine just to make sure I don't overdose. Next up is strontium. Looking at the results, I'm not sure if I really want to mess with this one much. Just got flagged by CoralView, but I'm kind of close to the target. Bromine got flagged by ATI and Triton. This is one I'm going to look a little closer at and see what steps I want to take. Looks like it might be worth dosing this one. Fluorine was only tracked by ATI and they flagged it. Looks like I'm almost about half of what I should be. But it's interesting that not all the same elements get tracked across all 3 tests, so keep that in mind. Lithium got flagged by both ATI and Triton, even looking pretty low compared to the target for CoralView as well. Going into this, I really didn't expect to see so much deviation between the results, but I'm glad I did this experiment just to find out. Across the board, the barium levels were low. Another one I'm going to take a closer look at, find out exactly what it does, and see whether it's worth dosing. Manganese, pretty much a solid 0 across the board. Another one, I'll take a look at it, see if it's something I need to add to the tank. Arsenic, this one's a little interesting. I just hit a high number with CoralView. I used their contact form to reach out to them and ask more questions about why my arsenic might be elevated. And it was pretty cool. They got back to me within a day to answer my question and said it's basically bound to the salts and that not to be overly concerned with the number wasn't high enough to cause any detriment to my coral. I followed up and asked a second question. I was surprised they got back to me same day on that one as well. Basically, I was just asking to see if it's part of some salts more than others, and they said really not to stress too much. It's in all the salts because it's a basic element. Molybdenum, this one's fun to pronounce. I haven't noticed any issues with red slime algae, but apparently this is one indicator that can help you identify whether that element is contributing to slime algae. And that's pretty much it for the actual elements that got flagged. Now let's talk about some of the nutrients that they measure. I like that ATI actually measures nitrates. This is something where you have to pay for a separate test from Triton. They just recently came out with that test here in the United States. And unfortunately, CoralView doesn't offer that option. Phosphate got measured by both ATI and Triton. This is kind of cool to calibrate my HANA checker, which regularly puts me at 0.04. So I'm pretty much in the ballpark with my HANA checker. So I thought I'd just close out with some final thoughts. All 3 tests, they give good information, but I'd say they got kind of different applications. If you're in the United States, then I'd totally suggest the CoralView test for a situation where you're having more of an emergency with your tank and you need the details back right away. Triton, I would suggest in a situation where you're looking to kind of be guided as to what to do with your tank. Kind of same thing with ATI, but I'd say with the ATI test, it's really cool that you get more of a broad spectrum, including the RODI test. So ultimately, I'm not going to say one's better than the other. I would more likely, for myself, lean towards the CoralView test just because I want information as quick as I can get it. And I've pretty much reached the point in this hobby where I feel comfortable being able to dose things and monitor the tank without too much hand-holding. Thank you guys for watching. I hope this video cleared up some mystery around ICP tests. I know that I had some major revelations doing this experiment myself. This was an expensive experiment to take on, so I appreciate if you like, follow, subscribe. Leave me some comments down below if you have any questions or suggestions. Follow me on Instagram. Check out my macro photography and latest updates on my tank. Thank you very much for watching. Take care and be well.